In this swing analysis video, we're going to take a look at Adam Scott. Now, Adam Scott has one of the best swings of our era as far as a lot of the geometry, so I'm not just going to sit here and play through a swing and tell you how perfect the club looks there or at the top of the swing or etc. We're going to get into some of the details of some of the key movements that makes his swing look the way that it does, function the way that it does, and potentially gives him a little bit of trouble when it gets to putting. So hopefully you'll enjoy this analysis video as we take a look at some of the key movements of the transition and downswing for Adam Scott. So the two key movements that we will look at in transition are going to be the arm shallowing and the sequencing, or how he's powering the swing with his total body. So first let's look at this arm shallowing move. It's going to be, he's one of the examples that people use of, look, he just brings his arms straight back down on kind of the same position or same plane that he was swinging back on. Now, what I'll say is, okay, that's fine. I'm not saying that the club is making a huge, major shallowing move. I'm saying that the arms are, because if we take this position here in the backswing, you can see where his chest and where his pelvis are facing, and you can see that the elbow, actually let's go a little bit further back so we can see, you can see the elbow there is pointing pretty close to straight down towards the ground. It's got a little bit of internal rotation, but it's pointing pretty much down towards the ground. So what will happen is, from the top of the swing, as he starts down, now his arm is pointing a little bit more out. But the big thing is, compared to his body, if his arms and club are in a relatively similar position to where they were in the backswing, so right around here, then if his body has completely changed, by definition, his arms have also changed in order to maintain that same space. It's kind of like if I had you standing up on a wobbly board and your head was staying in the same place, but your body was moving all over the place. Technically, your neck is moving a lot in order to keep your head still, even though it looks like your head is staying still. So if his arms don't look like they've changed a whole lot, but his body looks like it's changed a ton, he's made some major arm and shoulder movements in order to attain that look. So what we'll see is the elbow is now pointing a little bit more down, even though the body has rotated a significant amount. In order to make that happen, the arms will have had to have rotated to the right of his body or shallowed a very good bit. You can see it a little bit from the face-on view as well, where the elbow's pointing kind of straight down there, and then as we go up towards the top of the swing and return back to that same position, now the elbow is pointing kind of more out, or well out in front of the golf ball, as opposed to pointing straight down at about that same position or orientation compared to the camera. So even though it doesn't look like he's having this shallow move, all the indicators are there, and everything is pointing to the fact that his arms have shallowed a good bit during transition. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to have the body rotation that he's going to have during the remainder of the downswing without getting too steep. So now let's take a look at one of my favorite topics, which is how golfers power their swings. So we're going to take a look at how Adam uses his entire body to power the swing. So I basically want you to look and kind of pay attention to these major joints. So what's happening at the foot ankle, what's happening at the knee, what's happening at the hip, and then what's happening in the mid-spine, or just below the shirt buttons, kind of in here. So what we'll see is, as he goes up towards the top of the swing, you'll see there's actually some movement in his foot. I'll show it in a little better camera angle, or a little better camera quality view. But you'll see that there's an overall pattern of, it looks like everything is moving together, and yet if you were to go frame by frame, it looks like the foot is moving slightly before the knee slightly before the hip, and the hip slightly before the chest. So there's this almost duality of trying to have clear sequencing of the lower body before the arms and club and before the upper body. But then there's also this fascial connection, and you want to make sure that all the links between the bodies are not getting too disconnected. It's a key source for transferring power all the way to the arms and club, and a lot of golfers, even very good golfers, don't have nearly the look of the connection between the different segments that Adam is demonstrating here. Now from the face-on view, you'll again see that total body movement, and you'll see a pretty quick weight shift where he gets his hip over on top of that lead foot by about the time the lead arm is parallel, and then he can really go into that bracing strategy as he goes into the release. For the arm and hand purposes, he's got just classic release stuff. So if you were to copy one position, this position that he gets into, that I refer to as follow-through position, indicates a lot of really good mechanics. So he's got his pelvic tilt going on where his glutes are squeezing, his hip is in extension. You can see how he's got this really smooth curve going from his spine all the way down to his foot. He's got great arm extension. He's got full unhinging of the wrist, so the club is not past his hands. It's just very good mechanically for what we want to do with the driver. And if you're able to accomplish even a tenth of this, you're probably going to be a pretty good driver of the golf ball. From the down the line view, you can see that he hasn't really come out of his spine angle. He's continued to side bend as his arms are extending away. There's just lots of really good pieces here that you would want to try to emulate. So now I want to talk about two things. One that goes on with his feet, so we can see that timing of how quickly he gets into his lead foot, and then we're going to talk a little bit about a shoulder girdle. So this is a really good quality clip here, and I think that it helps you really visualize and see what's going on, the timing of when a lot of these pressures and things tend to happen. So you'll see from the face-on view that it looks like he gets onto his left side pretty quickly, so by the time that left arm is parallel to the ground. So I want you to see a neat little timing thing, which is once he gets to right about there, you'll see that foot shift back away from the line just slightly. That foot would not be able to shift away from the line if he was still actively pushing through the ground. So he's kind of pushed through the ground, does his Jackson 5 or weight shift move, but it's done by the time he gets to about here, and then as he goes to rotate or transfer and start the bracing with that lead leg, you'll tend to see that trail foot is almost free floating and shifts back just slightly. So I know a lot of golfers try to really push through the inside part of that foot all the way down into impact. I just want you to see how quickly that weight shift move should happen if you're then kind of using more of your total body to swing the club as opposed to just using your arms. If you tend to use your arms as the power source, what you'll tend to see is you're going to shift to that lead foot a little bit slower and use your lower body more as positioning instead of speed. One of the ways you can tell that he's using his total body to create power is if we get it to this position, you can see that the club shaft is roughly parallel to the target line, and so is his chest. So essentially, it's the same thing as if he was standing up and he had the club parallel to his chest, not perpendicular. Like if you take your normal address position right there, the club is perpendicular to his chest, but then at this point, the club is still parallel or even behind his chest, and he'll maintain that relationship pretty much as long as he can. And you'll see that right around here as he approaches impact, it's still pretty close to that parallel to his chest, so the club is well behind him. The only way the club would stay well behind him for that long is if he's powering it more with the body rotation and side bend and not with extension of the arms or chopping of the arms. So then the last little piece would be to notice an area where we could potentially get some improvement, because I believe there's always something you can do to improve your swing. If you're happy with it, that's great, go for it, but some of these guys who are best in the world are constantly tinkering on their swings. Adam Scott's not one of them, so I think that, and from a swing standpoint, there's not a whole lot that I would change. I'm going to show you an area where if we focus on what's going on up in this region, we get an idea that there may be some dysfunctional pattern there that could be impacting his short game, especially his putting. So what you'll normally see is down through this hitting area, you would normally see a pretty pronounced movement of the shoulder girdle or the shoulder blade. Adam doesn't really do that. It's almost like his shoulder blades are fixed in position on his rib cage. So as a result, what you'll tend to see is you'll see a little bit more of a compensation through his neck, which allows that shoulder to, by compensating with his neck, kind of tucking his chin and turning his head more to the right, that's going to mimic the movement of having the shoulder working a little bit more around. You'll see to the right part a little bit more from the face on. So right about now, as the arms want to extend, he's bringing his head towards his shoulders as he's bringing his neck forward. So he's using this muscle called the sternocleidomastoid to really create some tension on the top of the shoulder girdle, which will make the arm stronger when it then goes to extend. But the big thing you'll see is as he goes through, there's not a ton of shoulder blade movement. And I like this camera angle because it's so clear, and you can see, because Adam has pretty pronounced back, you can see a lot of the lines that make up some of the muscles around the shoulder blades. So you can see that there's some movement, but not a whole lot. The white shirts are usually the easiest to see this. So here's an example of Brent Snedeker, and you can see through the ball, just kind of the edge of his scapula, and then through the ball, you'll kind of see the shoulder blade working a little bit more around, kind of like so. Again, this isn't going to be a problem for the full swing. In fact, what he's doing there is going to provide a lot of safety and stability, but it looks like it's a little bit locked up. The place where that would show up would be more of putting, because as guys like Stan Utley have demonstrated, when your shoulder blades have free mobility, it makes it a little bit easier to control the path and the movement with more of the elbows and shoulders and a lot less with the hands and wrists. So I had a little trouble finding a good face-on camera of his short putter putting stroke, but you'll see that there's a little bit more of an arm and hand release, as the movement appears to be happening a little bit more below the elbows and in the spine, not a ton here in the shoulder girdle. This actually fits a little bit better with his long putter style, because this can pretty much lock the scapula in place, and then it's really easy to control the face but just by having more of the movement at the rib cage, and the grip position pretty much takes the wrists out, so he's effectively locked this all into one lever and then controls it a lot with his body. He's already shown with his full swing that he's really good at controlling precision and the location of where this club is swinging by using his body, so this makes a lot of sense for him. It'll be interesting to see how he holds up to transitioning to the short stroke for this upcoming year, where the long putter is going to be banned. So if you like the way we break this down, head on over to Golf Smart Academy and check out our membership program. Learn all the drills that help you build a solid transition and release, and some of the key concepts that we discussed here in this video.